Hey guys, Davis here. At the time of recording this, the Switch 2 has been released to the world. Though sadly for us Fire Emblem fans, we haven't heard any news for a new game on the console. A good number of fans are really hoping for the announcement of a remake, mainly for Genealogy of the Holy War. While I do think that game would benefit a lot from quality of life changes, I personally don't want that to happen just yet. I would much rather see a brand new game with a new world, story, and characters to sink my teeth into. While we wait and see what Nintendo has in store for us, I thought I would talk about my personal hopes for the next Fire Emblem game. Now, a disclaimer before we start. These are just based on my preferences when it comes to my enjoyment of Fire Emblem. These points aren't meant to be taken as the best directions Fire Emblem should take objectively. These are just to get off my chest what I'd hope or cope to see in the next entry. Without further ado, my friends, let's get started. Here are my personal hopes and copes for the next Fire Emblem game. Number 1. Engage boss fights. Let's start off this video with something I think Fire Emblem Engage did spectacularly. While Engage may not have been my favorite game in the series, they nailed making boss fights incredibly satisfying. In the older entries, most boss battles felt like a victory lap than an actual test of strength. Many bosses just stand on a throne at the end of the map and wait for you to come to them. These bosses end up just being an XP blob you decide to feed to your favorite unit for a free level up. Not so in Engage, however. Bosses in Fire Emblem Engage proved to be a real threat to your army. This results in an all-hands-on-deck situation due to them having multiple health bars and scary stat blocks. With the careful use of the emblem greens and class skills, every unit plays their part in these fights. It's almost like an MMO raid in a way. Making my entire army feel equally important in the final stage of a chapter should be a huge focus in the next Fire Emblem game, in my opinion anyway. I say to hell with lazy bandit boss number 57 sitting on his golden throne. Give me enemies that give me a run for my money, like Nelus in Chapter 5. Minus the cringe dialogue, of course.
Hate to break it to you, Queenie, but our forces have taken the castle. This is the part where you tell me where you've got the ring stashed in here. Is it inside the castle? Out on the grounds? I'm asking all polite like.
The f*** is this?
Now, if we are gonna bring back engaged boss fights, I do have one request for this. Please make a variety of bosses. As good as this boss battle system is, Engage had a problem of recycling bosses over and over again. There are so many enemy classes, skills, and map combinations in Fire Emblem that can make for so many kinds of satisfying fights. Please, Nintendo, let's not have another Four-Hound situation again, shall we? At the end of the day, I think the boss fights in Engage should be a mainstay in the franchise. Or heck, there could even be a mix of traditional bosses that stand on a throne with a single health bar, and Engage-style bosses that charge the player with multiple health bars. Best of both worlds, you know? But hey, no matter what route they go with their bosses, I'm sure they'll still make for memorable experiences in the next entry. Alright, now let's move on to number 2. A Tellius Base system. To me, the Switch 1 era of Fire Emblem had a bit of a problem with time management in their base hubs. The monastery sections would bog down the gameplay significantly on repeat playthroughs. These sections had players running through repetitive tasks, on top of the absurd amount of loading screens to sit through as the in-game month went by. Great as it is to directly interact with these characters to make the world feel lived in, it gets old for me rather fast on a repeat playthrough of Three Houses. Now, Engage's Somniel, while smaller and addresses a lot of issues with the monastery, still had its own set of problems of taking up considerable amounts of gameplay between chapters. Don't get me started on having to run back and forth to the dog farm giving me medals, and sit through arena and emblem bond battles without the use of mods. Again, the Somniel is a big improvement from the monastery, but still has its own set of issues for me personally. While the Switch 2's hardware provides hope that the loading screen problems will be alleviated, it won't change the fact that the repetitiveness of the base tasks will be prevalent if they go this route again. Charming as it is to see my army walk around in these hubs, I would much rather have a return of my preferred base system in Fire Emblem, the Tellius Base. Yeah, get your smelliest cope in the comments out of the way. This is a hopes and copes video after all. Y'all know what you signed up for when you clicked on this video. Anyhow, the Tellius Base has my favorite layout when it comes to managing my army. All within the clicks of a menu, you have access to managing your character's resources, seeing optional dialogue, distributing bonus XP and skills, building supports between your characters, and buying items without having to hear, "I thank you," over and over again. Organizing your army is in every single Fire Emblem game to some capacity, and I feel the Tellius Base strikes the correct balance of sufficient downtime without bogging down the core gameplay loop too much. Sometimes simplicity can have a multitude of merits over too many systems at once. While I doubt a Tellius-style base will ever return, this system will remain my preferred way to manage my army any day of the week. Speaking of Tellius, let's talk about a feature that I also doubt will return, but I absolutely adore. Number 3. Bonus XP. For the uninitiated, Bonus XP, or BEXP, was a base feature that you could use in both Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn. This served as a pool of experience points you could give out to any unit in your army between chapters. Bonus XP can be gained throughout your playthrough, simply by completing chapters and even meeting prerequisites in specific maps that give you even more XP. This feature allowed the player to have another layer of strategic investment towards their army. They could top off some units close to leveling, get their carries to be even stronger than before, or allow a unit lagging behind to catch up in levels. While Engage has brought back a similar feature of giving out XP such as the Somnial Arena, I think a return to bonus XP in some form would be a welcome addition to the next entry. This system would open up a variety of options for varying objectives and bonuses to incentivize receiving more BEXP. Heck, you can even combine some elements of the Somnial Arena and bonus XP. Maybe you can gamble with some BEXP on the next arena fight that you send a unit into, getting a massive return on investment, and while offering the risk and reward of the old arena system in the GBA Fire Emblem games. This would offer an incredibly tense gambling game. I don't know, just an idea to throw out there. Alrighty, now that my Tellius is done, for now at least, let's move on to something I do not want to return in the next game. Get ready, fellas, because here it is. Number 4. No more avatars. If there's one thing I've grown to dislike as the series has progressed, it's the incorporation of the player avatar. To me, an avatar is meant to act as a vessel for the player to interact in the world they are inhabiting. Almost like a blank slate, if you will, to explore the world through the lens of this character. And maybe it has a basic backstory provided by the game, or chosen by the player. Games that I feel do this really well are Fallout New Vegas and Mass Effect. In New Vegas, Courier 6 can be a wild concoction of a character, reflected by the skill set and decisions the player makes on their journey. This in turn actively impacts the world of the Mojave Wasteland through their exploration. And while Commander Shepard is more of a grounded character, the decisions you make as them ultimately impact the grand scope of the galaxy, whether you see things as a paragon or a renegade. Not to mention, they have some of my favorite dialogue of all time in a video game.
Basir, I let the Destiny Ascension die with 10,000 people on board, including the Council. I unleashed the Rachni on the galaxy. So for your sake, I hope your escape plan doesn't hinge on me hesitating to shoot a damn hostage.
Goddamn! Goddamn! Goddamn!
Modern Fire Emblem, to me at least, has a bit more of an odd direction with the use of these avatars. While gameplay can wildly vary through the use of reclassing and optimizing your build, these avatars are ultimately not that impressionable to me as this archetype through the lens of a story perspective. The biggest offenders for this are Byleth and Alir. In all honesty, there really is no point to have the option to change these characters' names and just call them avatars. We even get to customize what they look like to begin with. They ultimately are there to serve being worshipped by the characters you recruit, whether it's the incessant use of Professor or Divine One. Overall, these characters have left a rather lackluster impression on me as a player, and I would rather be done with avatars in Fire Emblem, at least from having the narrative-focused perspective on things. I think avatars can certainly serve their purpose in regards to gameplay, but I would much rather see avatars take a little bit of a step back in regards to being focuses on the narrative. So, I propose this. Why not just focus on a brand new Lord character instead? Having a more grounded focus on a Lord with a character arc would be a welcome return for me personally. Seeing the stories of characters like Ike becoming the leader of the Grail Mercenaries, Leaf leading the liberation of Leonster, and Seliph stopping the rise of Loptir are stories I've gravitated towards greatly. Ike's in particular is one of my favorites simply from the fact that he isn't even a lord at all. Sure, yes, he does obtain a lordship from Valencia, but he ultimately grows as a character, experiencing some of the most grueling tasks as a leader. Think about it. This kid is forced to lead after his father is murdered in front of him. He actively makes change to the world of Tellius through interacting with the many rulers of the world, and ultimately grows up to become just like his father, and more. Meanwhile, the most I can say about Alir is that well, they hardly change at all as a character and give me very little reason to care about their story and engage. And while Byleth can have great subtle moments during the cinematics of Three Houses, they ultimately don't deliver as a central character throughout the entire narrative. At the end of the day, if you like Fire Emblem avatars, then that's great. Enjoy the aspects of Fire Emblem you like. But I myself would prefer a traditional return to focusing on a Lord character rather than an avatar taking the spotlight of the narrative. Number 5. A blend between Sprites and 3D Fire Emblem. As Fire Emblem has become more 3D, I've grown less attached to the art style direction of these games. I grew up with the GBA era of Fire Emblem, and let me tell you, 8-year-old Davis was absolutely blown away by the masterful sprite work of Lynn's critical animations, the goofy but memorable warrior spin, and the over-the-top Swordmaster critical hit. To me, these sprites are absolutely timeless, and I'm certainly not alone on this one. Entire communities of Fire Emblem are devoted to the creation of more sprite-based Fire Emblem games through the creation of custom ROM hacks. Though I will say, the recent art styles of Fire Emblem have left a rather mixed taste in my mouth, especially with Engage's more VTuber-esque designs that feel like they have too much going on at once. Perhaps my tastes in art styles are a little bit behind the times, and I'll grow to appreciate them more as time goes on. But until then, what if we could possibly bridge the two communities of both 3D and sprites in regards to gameplay and art direction? Plenty of games are able to add legacy modes of remastered versions of their games. Games like Command & Conquer and Halo Combat Evolved have been able to seamlessly incorporate these elements into their gameplay through the click of a button. If people prefer the newer graphics, then they can keep the new graphics on. If people prefer the older graphics, then let them keep the older graphics on. Just picture this. If there's a 3D map that you would prefer to see in a 2D sprite design, then boom! When I personally look at map sprites of varying classes in Engage, sometimes it's a little difficult to tell apart which foot soldier is the class that they represent. Whereas in the GBA style, the sprites are more easy to distinguish just by looking at them. Though I will say, it's certainly not as bad as, say, Advance Wars Reboot Camp sprites by a long shot. Again, this is all just preference at the end of the day, and adding a feature that allows a pseudo-legacy mode with the click of a button, I think would be a nice feature for new and old fans of the Fire Emblem series. Heck, Fire Emblem Engage and Three Houses do have pixel sprites that they display for the respective characters and stat sheets. But again, like the title of the video suggests, this is hopes and copes, and there's no guarantee that we'll see it happen, but I would certainly like to see it myself. I'm crossing my fingers that we hear news about a new Fire Emblem game sometime soon, my friends. But for now, all I could do is hope and cope that the next entry will exceed all my expectations. So yeah, those are my personal hopes and copes for the next Fire Emblem game. Now, I want to hear from you guys. Are there any features you want to see in the next Fire Emblem game? What do you want to see not return? Or are there new concepts you think the game should explore? Let me know in the comments down below. With that, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoy videos like this, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more Fire Emblem content. I also want to give a huge thank you to my patrons. Your guys' continued support allows me to make videos like these about a franchise I absolutely adore. So thank you to my fellow warriors and X-Chads. My name is Davis G, and I wish you all a good day. See you next time.